Hello, this is Dave for That's Us Gaming, and welcome to Dave's Ramblings, where I basically talk your ear off about things I find interesting. Now, with E3 going on, you might think, though, well, maybe Dave's going to have some thoughts on that, but quite frankly, I've sort of stopped watching E3 a while ago. I don't see the point of it. I might catch a few trailers. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you today about something even better than that. I wanted to talk to you about the PSP Go. No, wait, come back. No, I'm serious. No, the PSP Go was a flop. Now, for those of you who don't know, of course you had the PSP, which was very, it was successful. It had a very long lifespan. It had some fantastic games. Ultimately, it was sort of crushed by the DS, but I think that was due to Nintendo tapping into the casual market, the brain training, etc. And the PSP was a lot more hardcore. You had some proper scaled down versions of games in there, fantastic games like Tekken 6, etc. But anyway, the PSP Go came out a few years later, and what it was a smaller, a flip-up version of the PSP. Now, it's a lot smaller. It's got a nice screen on it, and it sort of slides up like a phone to reveal the buttons and everything like that. And it's still got that silly little nodule instead of an analog stick. But the main thing about this is it is completely digital. So now, I was working in Blockbusters at the time, and we were told that we would not be stocking this console because for game brick and mortar stores, there's no point in carrying this thing. I mean, they make a lot of their money off games, especially in Blockbusters. We made a lot of money on pre-owned games because you would get about something like 10% of what you pay for a game would go to the store. The rest of that would go to... So you were making about 10% on a game. But a pre-owned game, you could make... Well, I mean, they were buying games for like £3 and selling them for £8, etc. There was a lot more profit margin on the games. So Blockbusters, Game, etc., they weren't stocking the PSP Go. So it was essentially, it was a failure. People didn't want it because there was no UMD player on there. But I mean, in an age now where everything is very digital, I think it was really ahead of its time. And I wanted to talk to you today about its functionality in 2019. Because it's still worth having. It's still part of my everyday carry because it's so small. It's like having just a phone in your pocket. Just pick it up. I mean, I rotate between my PSP Go, my Vita, and my 3DS. But I find it a lot easier to carry my PSP Go with me everywhere. Now, there are problems with it being so old. For a start off, it's a bit of a pain. The store doesn't work anymore. So what you have to do is you have to use your phone or a PC, and you have to go on the actual PlayStation website. You have to then go onto the store, buy your stuff, go into account management, and go into your download list, and you can download any games you've purchased from there. Also, another thing worth noting is while it does have a fair bit of space on it anyway, the memory card for it is quite expensive because, again, Sony were using their own proprietary memory cards. But one thing I will say is this console in 2019 is very, very customizable. Now, what I mean by that is it will not take you more than, I'd say, half hour, if you're anything like me and a bit dull, to put custom firmware on there, download a couple of ROMs, and you can just play. Just go off, play. You can download whatever. I had all sorts on here. I've taken the custom firmware off I didn't fancy keeping it on there because I had a lot of games, and it may sound daft, I had a lot of games on there. I had too much choice. If I was on a lunch break, I'd flip it up, I'd have a look, and I spent so long choosing something that I wouldn't have time to play in my lunch break. But for example, now, when I say about too much choice, on this I had X amount. I couldn't even tell you. I can't remember how many PlayStation 1 games I managed to fit on you. I had emulators for the Sega Mega Drive, emulators for the Super Nintendo, for the Master System, for the original Nintendo, and all of these had at least 1,000 ROMs in with these emulators. There was tons. So of course I had too much choice as it was. But one thing people need to remember is, as I say, it's well worth thinking about, especially if you don't actually have, if you don't have a lot of money. I picked mine up for a grand total of, I think it was £30 in CEX. And as you can see on, the footage that I'm overlaying over this, I mean, I've got games like Splinter Cell, Final Fantasy Tactics, and these games on the Sony store, not a lot of them go over £8. I mean, there are some exceptions. For some reason, I think UFC is still like £32 on there. But, I mean, I don't usually pay more than around £6-7 for a PSP game. And considering that some of these games, as I say, are absolutely fantastic. I mean, we're talking Street Fighter Alpha 3, we're talking Vice City Stories, Star Wars Battlefront 2, Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron that didn't even come out on anything but the PSP, and Monster Hunter, which I love. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. That's my go-to if I'll do a quick gather or a quick hunt when I'm on my lunch break, when I'm on the bus. But yeah, I think in 2019, a PSP Go is a very, very cheap alternative to phone gaming. And I really think that it's worth looking at. Again, as I say, it was about £30 in CEX. If you just type into Google PSP custom firmware, you don't even have to mod the console itself. You just put the firmware on, you just load up the firmware, and it allows you to play practically anything. As for videos, I've put videos on here. I've managed to watch full episodes of Vikings, etc. When I've been on the go. It does work. It is a bit of a faff. I think I still prefer watching on my phone, mainly for the touchscreen functionality. Also, a lot of games now, obviously being so old, they're not online, etc. So, I mean, a lot of servers are closed down. But if you're looking for something to do on your lunch break, if you've got, like I said, a spare 30 quid, you're looking for something different, other than the fact that there's a lot of games, if you're doing it like I am, and not using the custom firmware, there's a lot of games like Final Fantasy VII, Crisis Core, which you can't get. There's a lot of them that are removed from the store due to various licenses. So games like Dungeons and Dragons Tactics, Lord of the Rings Tactics, they're not on there. Secret Agent Clank is another one. I don't know why that's missing. There's a demo on there, but no actual game. So unfortunately, while it is a bit of a pain not having especially I really wanted to play the X-Men Legends game. In fact, I think this, other than the PS2, I think this is one of the only consoles where you can get both X-Men Legends games and the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game all on the one console. But unfortunately, you just can't buy them at the moment. But if you use your custom firmware, you can put them onto this console. So yeah, bit of a weird one today. I hope you didn't mind me talking about it. It's just I've had a lot of people ask me whenever I whip the thing out, they're like, what is this? Etc. So I thought I would just let people know, just spread the love, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you very much for listening. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Bye.